You one day in a little toy shop, buy a pack of balloons with the money we got, set them free at the break of dawn. So one by one they were gone. Back at base, bugs in the software flash the message, something's out there, floating in the summer sky. 99 red balloons go by. It's red alert, there's something here from somewhere else. The war machine springs to life, opens up one eager eye, focusing it on the sky where 99 red balloons go by. 99 Decision Street, where 99 ministers meet to worry, super scurry, call the troops out in a hurry. This is what we've waited for, this is it boys, this is war. The president is on the line as 99 red balloons go by. Nights of the year, right? Super high-tech jet fighters. Everyone's a superhero. Everyone's a Captain Kirk, with orders to identify, to clarify and classify. Scramble in the summer sky as 99 red balloons go by. As 99 red balloons go by. 99 dreams I have had, in every one a red balloon. It's all over and I'm standing pretty in this dust that was a city. If I could find a souvenir just to prove the world was here. And here is a red balloon, I cry for peace and let it go.
If there be but 100 of us remain alive, never shall we under any condition be brought under anybody's idea of a new world order. It is in truth not for honor, nor for glory, nor for riches that we are fighting, but for freedom. For that one thing alone which no honest person would give up save with life itself. Once we were warrior poets. Now we must stand for peace. Alex, how are you? It's a lovely spring day here at Costa Loch Lomond. The sun's not quite shining, but it's not pissing down, and that makes a change. And yeah, so how's your weekend been, mate?
On a personal level, fine, not too bad. On the wider world level, well, we all know what's going on there. So, insanity on steroids.
Oh, well, yes. Obviously, folks, we don't have Glenn. You can see that. We don't have Glenn this week. He is on family duty, and we always say family first. And trust me when I tell you, family first. This weekend may well prove to be the last normal weekend anyone, anywhere, ever has. Let that sink in. Propaganda. Alex, I fucking hate AI. It's bad enough trying to sift through the fog of war. It's bad enough trying to sift through the propaganda and the disinformation, but you throw AI fakes into the fucking mix and it becomes almost impossible.
Yeah.
But despite that, here's what's really happening. Hegseth, Trump, Rubio are all out saying, oh, we've obliterated Iran. We've fucking bombed everything. We've taken out all their launchers. We've taken out all their ships. We've taken out their fucking Air Force. Alex, tell people what Iran bought from China shortly before this war. Tell them.
Well, they had a good chunk, and I forget the actual numbers, but the best description would be that they were inflatable tanks.
Couple of 100,000 inflatable tanks, inflatable planes, and inflatable fucking missile launchers. That's a good day for fucking Temu. And they've also been painting fucking planes on the tarmac. And the US and Israel has fallen for it fucking 100%. And they've been bombing using fucking bombs that are costing millions to take out shit like a Toyota fucking truck. I mean, it doesn't make any military sense. So, unable to actually target the real Iranian military, the real missile bases, missiles which are being launched, suddenly, poof, an explosive blows up a fucking covering in the middle of the desert, and then bip, out comes a fucking intercontinental ballistic missile. They have no idea where things are. That's part of the problem, which is part of the reason why the lunatics began fucking bombing civilians, committing war crimes left, right, and fucking center. Iran said to its neighbors, stop letting the US attack us from your country and we'll stop hitting you. But no, they couldn't do that. Let's talk about this for a second, Alex, because you made a very good point. Okay, at least 3 to 5 US jets have been shot down in Kuwait. In Kuwait, one by a Kuwaiti F-22. We have sailors on fucking ships sabotaging the toilet system. We have an F-35 flying through Saudi Arabian airspace en route to attack Iran with its transponder on. After Saudi Arabia said, oh, we're not letting them now, please stop hitting us. It's almost as if some of the people fighting this war maybe don't want it to succeed, Alex. What do you think? You made the point in it.
Yeah, it's. I'm not being funny, but day one of going out in this situation, day one of their training must be to turn that off. You don't just forget when your life is relying on your training. You don't just forget to turn a transponder off. You don't accidentally sabotage the plumbing on a ship. You don't friendly fire. The Americans are very familiar with friendly fire, but you don't that easily shoot down somebody supposedly on your same side. It's almost like the troops do not want to be there. It's almost like they don't trust their own commanders, and who can blame them?
Well,
But we're not the days of full-blown mutinies. We don't live in those days. But maybe there is some level of rebelling against their leadership going on. That's just how it seems to me, at least.
well, it's certainly not the rosy picture that Trump and Hegseth and Netanyahu are wanting to fucking paint. Because Iran, day in and day out, is pummeling US forces in the Gulf, is pummeling Israel. Evidence suggests, strongly suggests, and if you want to know about this, go fucking watch MIT Professor Ted Postel. But evidence strongly suggests that whatever air defense America and Israel had is now depleted or less than fucking useless. The Iranians are cutting through it like a hot knife through fucking butter. They are hitting what they want to at will. So, the geniuses in Israel and the Pentagon. Oh, the Pentagon, by the way, that's just been disclosed that there has been massive, and I mean tremendously fucking massive child porn fucking sharing within the Pentagon. These geniuses decided to do the one thing that was guaranteed to fuck us all. They have hit Iranian oil production and Iranian refineries. Iran is going to respond in likewise fashion to the Gulf states now. Let that sink in. Even worse for the Gulf states, the UAE allowed the Americans to strike Iranian desalination plants, and they're bombing Iranian food production because they like starving people. They like turning off people's fucking water supply. Just look at what they did in Gaza. Here's the real problem they've got. Iran is a continental-sized country. It's as big as all of Western Europe. About 3% of its water comes from desalination. Unfortunately for the UAE and other Gulf states and Israel, that's not true for them. The UAE, for example, 40% of their drinking water is from desalination plants. The other 60% is imported. Except it's not being imported because the Straits of Hormuz are blocked. And now Iran's starting to take out their desalination. Death by thirst is not a pretty fucking sight. They're escalating in ways, Alex. And of course, other countries are getting involved. Fucking Saudi is saying, if you don't stop hitting us, we're going to hit you. And Pakistan is saying, well, we've got to stand with Saudi and may strike. Fucking, it's just hurtling out of fucking control at this point, Alex, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. And it's hard to know where the alliances and the allegiances are standing. It seems to be in so much of a flux situation because it's depending on information that's not always accurate. And as things come out as to who fired what, because the propaganda machine is in full-blown, action, for want of a better word. It seems to change almost daily as to where those allegiances and where those alliances stand.
Mario Narfal, most days of the week, couldn't find his arse with both hands. But just before we went live, he had tweeted, because I can't get used to saying an X post. He tweeted, "We have never been closer to World War III." And nobody seems to give a damn. That's terrifying. And for once, I agree with him. But before I get to the what maybes and what ifs, and what I strongly suspect will be's, let's deal with the facts of what is right now. And Alex, you did last week for us an economic report on what would happen if they closed the Straits of Hormuz, where things might be. I hate to say this, but it's worse than we thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
Bring people up to speed, mate.
Yeah, we'll do. Right. Well, the thing is,
maybe when it starts to hit their fucking pockets, they'll actually think to themselves, fuck me, maybe we should do something. Maybe. I don't know. On you go, Alex.
You gotta hope, and it's gonna start hitting pockets very, very soon. Because the thing is, it has changed dramatically. And even though what the figures I was giving, the information I was giving you last week, is what they were predicting for, say, a week's time, it's already changed dramatically. So this was the graph I showed you last week. This was taking it up to when the markets closed before last weekend. And at that point, crude was topping out at $67 a barrel. This is WTI crude. This is not Brent, but it was topping out at $67 a barrel, and it was still under the peak in the so-called 12 days war. Now, this is the same chart, simply extended by 1 week, and you can see that jump in the last few days before the market, or even I think it's the last day or so before the markets closed. And now, when the markets closed, this is to say WTI, that was hitting $90 a barrel. And it was completely dwarfing the rise in the 12 days war last June. This is Brent crude, and that is just over the last week. And your difference is the companies, obviously, but it's having the effect across the board on all crude oil producers. And this is to say, this is Brent, and this is just over 1 week. And this is now topping out at $94 a barrel. And this is the latest from the market analysts, because I read you last week what they were saying. This is what they're saying now. Brent crude surged more than 10% to around $94 a barrel, the highest since November 2022, as intensifying tensions in the Middle East are disrupting global energy trade. On Friday, President Donald Trump urged Iran to accept unconditional surrender, amplifying fears that a drawn-out conflict could significantly impact worldwide oil supply. Earlier in the day, Qatar's energy minister Sayed Al-Kaibi told the Financial Times that the Gulf exporters would halt production within days if tankers are unable to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. The actions to ease pressure, the Strait is a crucial route that normally handles about 20 million barrels of oil and petroleum products per day. The US signaled possible actions to ease pressure, including the potential release of oil from strategic reserves, while also temporarily allowing India to purchase some Russian crude already at sea. Well, that was generous of them. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia raised oil prices for Asian buyers and redirected shipments through the Red Sea ports to bypass Hormuz. So that's what they're now saying this week, but that's all very short term. That's all what's happened over the last weeks. They are now holding back.
Well, go on, say what you're going to say. Just a couple of things I want to put in. So.
No, I was just holding back. Now holding back to committing formally to a lot of the long-term forecasting.
That's exactly what I was just going to explain. These countries, these oil and gas producing countries, are claiming force majeure. Now, force majeure is where they say, because of circumstances like with their control, this in this case being the closure of Hormuz, they are not going to be able to fulfill their contractual obligations to supply the oil, the gas, the petroleum products. In the meantime, they're having to shut down the production of these things because their storage facilities are full to the brim, unlike storage facilities in the West, but no doubt Alex will get to that soon. When you shut down your production, think of it like shutting down a nuclear power station. You can't just flip the switch and that's it off then and come back a month later and fucking flip it back on. Oh, that's it back up and running. No. It takes a long process to stop oil and gas production. It takes an even longer process to get it back going. Capiche? So Alex has been talking about the analysts and what they're saying in the short term. There is no short term for this. This is something that's going to affect everything for months, if not years to come. Sorry, Alex, I just wanted to throw that in there. Please continue.
Yeah, and it is going to be long term, and therefore that literal effect of it being a long term reaction or process means that, in a way, everything I'm going to say on a predictive point of view is probably an underestimation. And when you hear what I'm saying figures wise, and you're bearing in mind that that is probably an underestimation of the effects, we should all be, from an economic point of view alone, probably terrified. Because you can't get people to commit to a long-term forecast for this exact reason. The only people that are going to say anything want you to pay for the privilege and pay for their expertise. The only long-term comments or generalized comments I found, and it is possibly a little bit too old in a way, is this one. And they're saying here, in light of soft supply demand fundamentals, and this is JP Morgan, so like I say, pinch of salt. JP Morgan Global Research sees Brent crude averaging around $60 per barrel in 2026. I'm not going to read the rest because it's nonsense. because they're trying to say it's going to average out at $60 a barrel. But the definition of an average, for every day that it's at its current rate of 90, you'd have to have one day at 30. Okay, that's a simplified way of looking at it. You'd have to have a day where that barrel was $30. Or you could have 2 days where it was 45. You could have 3 days where it's 50. But the closer to 60 the low days are, you'd have to have a hell of a lot more of them to match 5 days a week, even just 2 weeks at the current prices, if, which is highly unlikely, it doesn't go higher. So when people are saying $60 a barrel, it's going to average out this year, I'm saying nonsense. I'm saying I'm not buying it. And like I say, this is JP Morgan. So what could happen? Well, if the situation stays the same and oil continues going up at the current rate, and this is a very big if, but not in the way you'd want. So if you draw a line through, and you're not even taking it through the top of that graph, because when you try to extend things from a statistical point of view, you take it through the middles of the troughs and the peaks, and you take a general direction of travel that levels that out. Now, if we extend, in this very simplified way of extending it, but if we extend that out for a week, I'm coming up with, in 1 week's time, a barrel of crude would be approaching $104. I'm coming up in 2 weeks' time, a barrel of crude would be approaching $118. Like I say, it's a simplistic carrying it forward. I'm no financial analysis. Except this is another article that, again, is only looking very short term from Goldman Sachs. And they are predicting in 1 week that oil prices are likely to exceed $100 per barrel. And Barclays, they quote in the article, are suggesting that within 2 weeks, it could test the $120 a barrel rate. So my very simplistic extension is, if anything, conservative against what the financials, those who are in at any level committing, the financial world is suggesting. But looking at that graph, I'll go back to that one because it's easier to see it. It's not going up in a steady thing. It's going up in what is close and very close to an exponential curve. But even taking that steady advance, even saying that things carry on the way they've gone, we would be looking in a month, on my conservative estimates, of $135 a barrel, on what Goldman Sachs and Barclays have said at $160 a barrel. 2 months, 194 by my reckoning, by theirs, $258 a barrel. And that's been said elsewhere that it could hit the $250 mark. But that's if anybody can get any to buy. Because if it can't get through the straits, if the countries are stopping production, then they can't get the stocks to buy. So that's when it comes into a country's reserves. That's when they have to start breaking into those reserves. And that's when it actually gets a bit scarier. So what reserves have the countries got? United Kingdom, and this is actually 2025 figures. I cannot find 2026. I found one that said it was, and when you actually look into the details, it's based on 2024 results. But these stay pretty standard year to year, and I've looked back a few years to see how much they change, and they haven't changed massively, apart from in 2 cases. But the United Kingdom has reserves of 1.5 billion barrels. The US has reserves of 83 billion barrels, but between 2024 and 2025, that was almost doubled because in 2024, it was 45 billion barrels. Canada has 163 billion, which went up, and get this one, it went up from 4.3 billion. Now, either that is Canada significantly increasing its production, because it is a producer at some level as well, or they've really stocked up on those reserves. So I'm interested why those two. But to give some of the other countries that our viewers are probably from, New Zealand has 45 million barrels. Australia has 1.8 billion. But then we get on to some of the producers. Venezuela, and this is where you start seeing again red string. Venezuela in 2025 had 303 billion barrels. Saudi had 267 billion. Iran has 208 billion. Russia 80 billion. China 28 billion. So I want to have a look and play with those figures and have a look at the usage. This is incidentally where just a pictorial representation of where the bulk of reserve stocks are held. But this is because everything I do, I will reach for a spreadsheet. It's the easiest thing to calculate stuff on, so everything I do is on the spreadsheet. But this is my calculations, and it's based on open source data, but it's based on fairly reliable data for the daily consumption of these countries against the reserves of these countries. And this is where it gets interesting, because this is the number of weeks the countries can survive on their reserves. Now, oil-wise, United States isn't doing too bad. It can survive on its reserves for, say, a year and a half. So it reckons. The UK for about 6 months or so. Germany for 8 weeks. France for 6 weeks. Hungary for 11 weeks. So I played a bit with the figures, and if Hungary, France or Germany deplete their reserves and buying at the price they have to buy to replace them at the point that those reserves are depleted, then France would be 23 billion US dollars down. Sorry, no, Germany that was. France would be 12 billion US dollars down, and Hungary would be 3.8 billion US dollars down if they have to reply, if they are able to even, and if they have to replace them at the point of depletion with the new prices. But that's just oil. This is natural gas, and the line on that one is almost vertical. It is jumped through the roof. It is jumped through the ceiling. Now, one reason for that is about a fifth of natural gas flows through the Hormuz Straits. And this is what's happening there. Because this is a comparative satellite image from January 26 to March the 4th, 2026. And each of those green dots, which are almost merging together, is a tanker through the straits. It's not the clearest of image, probably, especially if you're on a phone, but you can very easily see that you are losing a hell of a lot of those tankers on that second image. And France, Le Monde, France, French newspaper, was reporting that only 9 tankers actually managed to get through the straits since Monday. And they reckon not even the exceptions they've given, not even like the Chinese or Russian tankers, they reckon not even they are getting through. So it's even if you can get any of it to replace, and that's one of the reasons the natural gas is going through the roof. This is traffic I showed you last week through the Straits of Hormuz. This is this week, and it is fallen off the precipice. And like I said, 9 ships, they reckon, within the whole week since Monday have got through. So that's natural gas, and I've done what I did with the oil for the natural gas. So I've gone for my spreadsheet again. This is the reserves, and I'm not going to read out these figures because it's in cubic meters and they're looking billions and trillions of cubic meters. But this is the yearly consumption and calculating that back to cubic meters, because for some reason they give you that in a completely different form of measurement. This is what you have in weeks. Saudi Arabia has 4 weeks reserve. Iran has 9 weeks. Canada has 1 week. United States has 1 week. Russia has 5. China has 1. India has 1. Australia has 4. The UK, Germany, France, New Zealand, and Hungary don't even reach 1 week. So it took it down to days. The UK has 0.8 of a day reserves. Germany has 0.1 of a day. France, the same. New Zealand does have at least 2.2 days, and Hungary has 0.1 of a day as well. Now, this is purely based on their reserves, open source info on their reserves and open source info on their usage. And the usage will vary between the year, throughout the year, but we're in March. So we may not be as bad as we would say would have been in the heart of January, but we're not in the summer. We're not going to be at the low points of that usage. And if there's any accuracy in this, then we could be looking, if the gas stops flowing completely, at less than a day's stocks within the UK.
Okay, Alex, let's pause there, because I know you, and you've got a lot more to come. But for a lot of people, that would be a mic drop. You've just told us the UK has less than a day supply of natural gas. I hope people like me who have combi boilers are fucking up for cold showers, because that's what you're going to be having. Let's hope there's not a cold snap, as there quite often is in March, because it doesn't matter how much your gas bill will go up, because it's going to go through the fucking roof, motherfuckers. You still might not get any. That's the implication of what Alex is saying. And when electricity generation in this country and in many countries is also gas-fired, I think you can see the problem. So it's not just the oil's going through the roof, which means your petroleum products are going through the roof. And I drive, and in this week alone, every day, those prices are going up. Tuppence one day, threepence the next, but upwards they are going. And that affects the cost of everything, because everything is moved by diesel. And if diesel goes up, the cost of shipping goes up, the cost of production goes up. We are fucked 7 ways from Sunday at this point. 7 ways from Sunday. And this isn't what ifs and maybes. This is the hard facts now. Now, I'll come back to this. It gets a whole lot motherfucking worse if Bab el Mandab also gets closed. But Alex, for now, continue.
Okay. And yeah, like you just said, it is everything, because everything has to be shipped, has to be packaged, and that's without counting the number of products that include the use of oil. That's why those consumption values are so high, and that's why the consumption on gas is so high, because it is literally the heat, the hot water in your houses, in your factories, in your places of work, and there may not be any of that very soon. They have estimated, because I like to back up what I've found with the figures with what they are saying, and they've estimated that inventories are less than 30% full, and that was at the end of February. Well, considering the inventory fully full only allows one less than a day, where we are now is horrifying to consider. But it's not just even that. If it was just even that, because everything is going down. This is the dollar crashing. This is the US dollar index. So it's not even specifically against one currency. This is the dollar index. And this, because I don't have that much more, is the FTSE 100. The markets are in free fall. The markets are crashing. You may not be heating your houses by the end of next week. So you may not be able to get online to check how badly the markets are falling by the end of next week, which might at least be one good thing. But it's not getting any better. And this is based on where we are now. This is based on them having to stop production now. This is based on where we are. If this turns into, it's all right, Trump saying we can fight forever. If this turns into forever war, then this will be the last normal weekend without even getting on to what they do and how they continue to fight that war.
Sobering stuff, Alex. And at this point, see, nobody's going to come and help anyone else out. The US thinks, but only thinks, that it's self-sufficient in oil and natural gas. It's not, actually. And that means it cannot export LNG or anything else to Europe. And we're so fucking stupid in Europe that we had a stable, cheap, reliable source of both oil and gas through pipelines that we decided to fucking blow up. And now Russia's saying, well, you don't want our natural gas by 27. I'll do you a favour. You're not going to get any of it right fucking now. There's so many fucking ways to go. Well, first of all, economically, it's bad enough that the Straits of Hormuz are closed, and there's no traffic through that. There are reports, and I think they're credible, that the Gerald Ford passed through the Suez Canal with its battle group and is now in the Red Sea. And the George W. Bush is now steaming towards the Mediterranean. That's a third aircraft tanker. And all that it can bring to bear. Why haven't the Yemenis been doing that much? Why haven't the Houthi, who defeated the United States, not once, but twice, under Sleepy Creepy and then under Trump, why haven't they been doing very much? Maybe they've been waiting for this precise moment when Iran and Yemen have a US carrier group, and not just a US carrier group, the newest, fucking, most sophisticated, most advanced US carrier group in a bottleneck in the Red Sea. If the Yemenis close Bab al-Mandab, that also closes all container transport, oil, all tanker transport from that side of the Gulf, where Saudi would at least attempt to reroute. Yeah, you get to see what I'm saying, Alex? It's and everything's knocking on. Everything's knocking on. It's one of these fucking elaborate layouts of dominoes. Once the first one starts to fall, the whole fucking shit show's coming down. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, these aren't speculations. This is not a what if. It is. And it's happening, as you said, trillions are being lost on the stock exchange now. Some people, like someone said earlier on, barring Trump, hey, just with my pocket money, I want to buy 40 billion fucking or millions worth of fucking crude oil this week. Oh, look, Daddy just fucking bombed Iran and that 40 million is now doubled. And yeah, some people are making money. Most people, this is the end. This is the 1929 so-called Great fucking Crash that brought in the Great Depression on steroids. How do I know that? BlackRock and State Street are limiting what people can withdraw from their accounts. If the two biggest financial institutions in the world are in fucking trouble, guess what, people? And I won't get into it because it's too complex, but if you want to do some research, go look at the derivatives market, which is at least 10 times bigger than the entire world economy at once. Russia is now in a position to put a stranglehold on energy supply to the world. China is now in a position not just to deny the US and Europe the rare earths it would need for any fucking war machine, but also to sink the US debt beyond fucking oblivion. Do you agree, Alex? You're up in these things?
Yeah, if they start dumping the bonds for us before we even start, it's gonna crash. It's beyond recovery anyway, and it's potentially artificially inflated anyway. But when half of your debt is financed in bonds and that could be dumped at any moment if they choose to, on top of everything else, there's no pulling back from that.
No. And China just issued a very plain statement. It's in a position to restore peace and stability to the Middle East. Oh, yes. Lavrov said just yesterday, we will help Iran. So, back for the moment to the military situation. We are going to be transitioning to the lone gunman, by the way, folks. But I want to get the factual stuff out of the way before we go into the speculation. Israel is being pounded in a way it's never been pounded before. They have tried to block images coming out, but no one can block images these days. Tel Aviv is starting to resemble Gaza. It could be that Iran and the Yemenis are going to be in a position to bottleneck the Gerald Ford. Losses, American losses, not just, they've lost every American base in the Gulf is gone. Their eyes are mostly gone. What I mean by that is Iran has systematically been destroying their radar arrays that are linked to their SADs and their Patriots and their fucking David Slings, etc. And they're doing so because they're getting not just Russian, but Chinese IRS, information reconnaissance and satellite. China has a fucking known spy ship literally fucking cruising along next to the Gerald Ford because they dare not fucking do anything about that. Trump makes big fucking statements. We'll have the Navy escort tankers. And the Navy went, no, you fucking won't. This is someone in the comments said Iran should obliterate Israel. Oh, Iran is obliterating Israel. That's the fucking point. Like I said on Wednesday, Israel and the US is turning out to be a paper fucking tiger. Toto is pulling at the fucking curtain of the bombastic Trump. And soon you're going to see the desperate, frightened little old fucking Oompa Loompa that he fucking is. So, the casualties, American casualties, are far greater than they're letting on. How do I know that? Well, the main hospital in Germany that deals with US military casualties normally has pediatric services, neonatal services, etc. All of those have been cancelled. They're the modern day MASH, and they've fucking casualties incoming constantly. There's a lot of deaths too. Soon, Trump and Hegseth are not going to be able to hide those deaths. Iran is ready to fight for months, if not fucking years, if it needs to. No air campaign is able to take a regime out like Iran, especially when it's the size of Western Europe. They're talking about boots on the ground. So far, they're trying to get the Bashirians to come in. And not even he is fucking stupid enough to fall for that, surely. They're trying to get the Kurds to come in. But the Kurds are going, fuck off, motherfuckers. 3 times now you've used us and dumped us. There won't be a fourth. So Trump's seriously thinking about putting US boots on the ground. Problem after problem after problem. I'm hearing that they are currently cancelling exercises for airborne American troops, etc. And they're giving them orders to be ready to deploy. Now, it takes months to deploy even 100,000 troops. And 100,000 troops ain't enough. You send 100,000 US troops into Iran, you better have 100,000 fucking body bags, because that's what's going to happen. But that will take months. And Israel doesn't have months. Israel will look from fucking north to south like fucking Gaza. And Iran ain't stopping. Trump can say all he likes that Iran wants a deal. Iran ain't stopping. So, here's what I think will happen, Alex, and I'll get your thoughts after this. There are special forces on the ground in the region. I think Trump's going to try Venezuela. Not to get Khomeini, who was in his office when they bombed him, but to take one of the Iranian nuclear sites, to send those guys down the tunnels to secure the enriched uranium. And believe it or not, US Special Forces have been practicing for that very thing for at least 10 years. I expect when they try it for it to be a complete fucking disaster. I expect not many of those special forces to make it out of those tunnels. At that point, Alex, and I know you're not a military person, but at that point, Israel has been pummeled top to bottom. America is losing bigly, possibly having aircraft carriers fucking sent to Davy Jones's locker. What are the men children of Netanyahu and Oompa Loompa going to do? What do you think they're going to do, Al?
What they're already coming out and saying, they're already bumping their gums on, is we're going to hit Iran in a way that it's never been hit before. We're going to hit harder than it's ever been hit before. You're going to see something more than you've ever seen before. And why do they want to send somebody into tunnels to try and get nuclear material that they know doesn't exist at the level and in the needs that they want? Why do the members, why do the officers on ships are so concerned about what they're doing that they're destroying the plumbing? Why are people leaving their transponders on? What do they fear? And if the US is going to pull a major fourth flag, because let's not be about Bush, if they are, what are they trying to achieve? He's already bombing Iran. What does he need to carry the people with him for? What does he need public opinion to be so anti-Iran to condone? And that's where it gets scary.
What's scary for me is the number of people, the talking heads, who have suddenly woken up to the idea that Netanyahu and or the Oompa Loompa may actually fucking use nukes. And the first one that falls changes the world forever. We're already in an age where every country that can is saying it's going to have a nuke. Where France is telling Germany, the fucking Germans, fuck's sake, the Nazis, you can have our nukes. Japan, it will have a nuke. In Japan, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, fucking fuck me, Malawi before long for all I know, because it ain't that difficult to fucking build a bomb. Yeah. Alex, I shared with you and Glenn a video of a guy who claims, and there's no reason to doubt his claim, that he is a US veteran and he has worked in the Air Force and now works for, who was it? Boeing, it was one of the MICs anyway. And he works on what's called the E6B Mercury. The E6B Mercury is the doomsday plane. That's what they call it. Every country has a version of it. That's every nuclear country. And in a nuclear war, this thing, Boeing, yeah, it was Boeing, this thing is meant to be heavily shielded from radiation, but its one job is to send a radio signal that can penetrate deep into the oceans with the nuclear launch codes. E6B Mercury has not been stationed outside of the United States of America since 2001. And now there's possibly one, if not two, in the Middle East. And we already know America has attacked submarines in the region because they committed a war crime by blowing up an unarmed frigate coming back from a ceremonial duty and not even having the decency. Even World War II fucking Nazi U-boats, once they'd blown up a ship, would surface and pick up survivors. But Hegseth's fucking War Department, no, we're fucking more Nazi than the Nazis. Yeah, Alex, what do you think? Sorry, before, you know, probably better now, how long I've been warning about World War III and how certain it was coming.
Yeah.
How long I warned that this attack on Iran was coming and how certain I became of it. Well, I am now certain, people. Absolutely certain that we ain't getting out of this without atomic weapons being used in anger. What do you think, Alex?
That I've never wanted you to be wrong more, but I don't believe you are. And it gets, I think that the facts on the ground back it up more than my gut instinct that you know what you're talking about, but it gets worse because they're in almost the whole thing in Iran, they're in almost a Mexican standoff. If Israel fires a nuke or the US fires a nuke at Iran, what are Russia and China going to do? But the question is not so much what Russia and China are going to do, is what Israel or the US firing a nuke on Iran will do, while asking the question what Russia and China are going to do, if that makes any sense. So where will any nukes fired be pointed? Will it purely be a tactical nuke in Iran is being suggested? Or are we going to see what Netanyahu's already talking about again with the whole Samson option? And is it going to be one press of one button against everybody that could be a danger or a challenge to Israel at that point? But the other bit that I cannot get out of my head is all the AIs were having one little meeting, one little discussion, one little tabletop exercise, whatever they called it. And every time, every one of them went for the nuclear button. And at the time I first heard that, I just thought, well, they've got nothing to lose. They're not affected by the radiation. It's that sort of mentality. But I can't get the idea out of my head that the way a computer computation works, it's almost a case of considering every possibility. Is AI considering every possibility and seeing a decreasing number of options that are non-nuclear? And that might be complete nonsense, but I cannot get the thought of it out of my head.
No, I don't think that's complete nonsense, Alex, and we know They have been plugging AI more and more and more into their military systems. This Epstein class is determined to burn the world, to rule over ashes rather than be caught. Trump is reported in the latest releases of Epstein files to have been raping children. Allegations all over the place. Would he use a nuke? Yes, he fucking would. Now, before we transition, very quickly to mention, at this point, Ukraine is now forever going to be known as Country 404. You're into computing, Alex. If you type in a web address and it comes up error 404, what does it mean?
Can't be found practically.
Does not exist, can't be found.
Yeah.
Well, Ukraine not only has the problem that with America fully engaged with Iran, it ain't getting jack shit in the way of weapons. We've got increasingly Belgium, Hungary, Slovakia blocking Ukraine getting any dosh from the EU. No one in Europe has any fucking weapons to give the bastards. Although Britain's trying to build fucking munitions factories in Ukraine. Buy those. Anytime Mr. Iskander or Rezhnik or any other type of fucking munition is coming to say hello. The Rasputin. The mud season's coming to an end. Russia could be days away, and they're not doing anything bigger than they've already done. They're still going at the pace they're going. They ain't going to lose soldiers. No need. When they're days away from taking out the last two strongholds in the Donbass, and then it's bye-bye Donbass, all the way to the Dnieper. The 12 fucking cliques from Zaporizhia, which is not easily defended. And once that's gone, it's all out for Odessa. And in the midst of that, Zelensky's so fucking stupid, he cut Russian oil and gas through the Druzhba to Hungary and Slovakia. One country that was providing him with his only source of electricity, considering his electrical infrastructure has been shot to fucking hell and back. We've now cut that electrical supply. And one country through which most of everything that Ukraine fucking needs has to transit through. Oh, and they just caught money laundering of billions of dollars, euros, and gold. Sorry, Mr. Zelensky. You ain't buying another fucking house. It's only a matter of time before Ukraine tries to attack Hungary or Slovakia. And then Ukraine's fucked from both sides. Do you see how that's going, Alex? And Russia's been shaping this battlefield, even in the north, up in fucking Sumy, which is not that far away from fucking Kiev. Now, unless the UK is going to give the cunt a fucking nuke again. Ukraine is country 404, is it not?
Yeah. You gotta hope the UK's not going to give them a nuke, because between Zelensky, Bibi, and Trump, we're going from 2 out of 3 to 3 out of 3 people that would fire it.
Exactly. But let's transition, because I've seen in the comments people ask things like, but why? Why? Well, there is always the reason for the season. So all of that is the factual open source intelligence we've been giving you. Let's step in to the world of the lone gunman. Play the song, Alex. Stick with us. See him wasted in the saddle. He comes riding through your town. He's wearing yesterday's misfortunes like a smile. Once he had a future full of money, love, and dreams, but he spent like it was going out of style. But he just keeps on believing that for better or for worse, he's searching for a shrine he's never found. Never knowing if believing is a lesson or a curse, or if going up is worth coming down. He's a poet and a picker, he's a prophet and a pusher, he's a pilgrim and a preacher, and a problem when he's stoned. He's this walking contradiction, partly truth and partly fiction. He's taken every wrong direction on a lonely road back home. He has tasted good and evil in the bedrooms and the bars. He's traded in tomorrows for today. He's running from his demons and he's reaching for the stars, leaving everything he's loved along the way. And the world just keeps on turning, so for better or for worse, all he ever gets is older and around. From the rocking of his cradle to the rolling of the hearse, going up's not worth coming down. But he's a poet and a picker, he's a prophet and a pusher, he's a pilgrim and a preacher, and a problem when he's stoned. He's this walking contradiction, partly truth, he's partly fiction. He's taken every wrong direction on a lonely road back home. Welcome, pilgrims. We know you're weary of traversing a world which truly is insane to its core. The internet is a morass of misinformation, disinformation, AI frauds, geeks, fraudsters, shysters, shoosters, clickbaiters, buy me a coffee brigade, Patreon my ass. Somehow, by accident or design, you find us this afternoon. So do come on in. Pull up a seat by my campfire. Roll yourself something warm and brown and golden to get you through this day. Possibly pour yourself an adult beverage. Because this afternoon, the lone gunman rides again. Alex Kimosabe. Yeah. Hey, we have to try and make light of this because it's very, very dark.
Yeah.
The only light at the end of the tunnel is a fucking flash of thermonuclear war. But why? Why? As you know, I like to start from the end and then work my way to the beginning sometimes just to confuse the hell out of everything. So, leaving all else off the table, the reason why, you see, America lost the Iranian war day one when it killed Khomeini. The West has already lost World War III before a single shot is fired, if you like. I'll tell you why. Very simple. Very simple at this point. Russia and China are pursuing policies of promoting natural heterosexual traditional behavior. They are giving incentives to people, male and female, to marry. They're getting given houses when they're married from the state. And then they're given further incentives, tax breaks, grants, etc., for every child that they produce. If you're in Russia or China, just being a normal person having babies is a great way of making money. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's the way it ought to be. Which is why, when across the board, every single fucking country in the world is experiencing fairly rapid depopulation, Russia and China, their populations are holding steady. So compare and contrast. Russia, which does not promote homosexuality, which promotes traditional family values, where men and women are creating babies to this disunited kingdom, where we have been pushing the LBGTQ plus and protecting pedophiles, where you can't watch anything on the news or on any sort of television without seeing the promotion of lesbian and homosexual marriages. And I'm not anti-homosexual. Just in case anyone's forgotten, when I was a Church of Scotland minister, I conducted the first homosexual fucking wedding when it was against the law to do so. But we're now in a place where to be a normal, white, heterosexual, male or female, you are in the minority. Where hairy-assed men who are sexual predators can pretend to be women and use children's bathrooms. Where gangs of all ethnicities are exploiting our children on the streets. Well, good enough for the bosses, eh? The bosses do it at industrial fucking scale. Through Savile and Epstein. And the criminal gangs in fucking Ukraine. We in the West seem to be doing everything we can not to have babies. And up to and including, and I'll finish with this and get Alex in, our old friend COVID. And amongst everything that is now becoming apparent, that we, Alex, 6 fucking years ago, were telling people about the kill shot. The myocarditis, the strokes, the Alzheimer's, the blood clots, the on and on I could go, the fucking Bell's palsies, it's all through the fucking roof. But the hidden one is the infertilization. What term am I searching for? I hate it when my mind goes blank like that. You know what I mean? They have made women infertile. Now, that's a big claim, but you will see very shortly. Bill fucking Gates is already wanted in places like India and Africa for his vaccines, which made teenagers infertile. And they put that shit in the kill shots because they want population reduction toot fucking sweet. Sterilization tax. Alex, sure you'll remember a while back, but you did a lot of research on that claim that populations were crashing, and you proved it, didn't you?
Yeah.
So tell people a bit about that, whatever you can remember.
I looked at the time at every country on the planet, and there was one country alone whose population numbers weren't going off the scale downwards or weren't declining, and that was the CAR, Central African Republic. I had to think of the name for a minute. And they weren't rising, they were holding steady. But every other country was declining, and the Western world were declining off the scale, especially places like South Korea, especially, places like Europe, to be fair, as well. But everything they've done is push that, support that. You can't be ahead. People take it as race, people take all this crap, but you cannot be a heterosexual male or female without being looked down upon, and you can't be a heterosexual woman without being expected to follow this nonsense about choosing the fucking bear. So whatever you do, whatever way you turn, whatever agenda, it's all going to send the population off the cliff. And then when we try to take that population to war, we are outnumbered. We haven't got a chance. Not even taking into account that less than 11% of the country wants to fight for the country. I'm sorry, I've circled back round, but
because you're quite right. I mean, when you're teaching 6-year-olds in school, they can self-identify as fucking fridges, and they don't have to tell mummy and daddy. You know, when the British Ministry of Defence put out, and I'm not kidding about this, people. I wish I was. I'm not. Put out a questionnaire to all military personnel this week. Should the British military allow soldiers to wear nail varnish and lipstick and hair extensions? Putin's in the Kremlin, trembling in his fucking boots, boys. There's a reason for the season. This coming World War, because it will be World War, is going to decimate millions, if not billions. Because they seem to be desperate to get the numbers down. You are the carbon that they want to reduce. Pardon me. So they spray us like bugs and they're sending us to war. One of the things that's happening that is inevitable because of what Alex was telling you earlier about the economics is that we are full scale in the middle of a massive deindustrialization. A second great deindustrialization. And you're going to be hit from 3 sides very rapidly. AI is poised to take over 90% of desk jobs, 90% of the functions of civil servants, 90% of the functions of offices and business centres. That's an awful lot of fucking middle management that's about to be tossed out the door, and quite frankly, you deserve to be useless fuckwits. Your greed has been part of the problem. But then there comes the robotic revolution, where to keep costs low, because with everything else going on, companies are not going to be able to keep the lights on, to pay wages. So AI robots, that's the solution. China already has millions of what they call dark factories. They're called dark factories because there's no lights on them, and yet they're pumping out stuff night and day. Why? Robots don't need fucking lights to fulfill their tasks. They don't need paid. They just need to be charged periodically. Now, if there are two countries that are ready for that, ready for to be able to provide their populations a decent level of living whilst not having to work, giving them more time to be creative, to do wonderful things, that'd be Russia and China. But again, Alex, wouldn't you say that we in the West are fucked? Because, I mean, it's not a case of I think mass unemployment is coming. I know mass unemployment is coming. You got me?
Yep. They've openly admitted it. They've openly admitted the percentage of jobs that AI will take. Whether it can or can't or is fit for purpose is all irrelevant if they are prepared to hand over those jobs to AI, because there is no wages, there is no costs, there is no staff disputes, people falling out, there's no personalities, there's no problems, there's no personnel department, there's nothing that you need other than the the software, if you like, to do that job.
Mars Mitchell. So with no jobs, who's going to buy goods and services? Correct. Nobody. Why? Because nobody's going to be here. Or at least very fucking few. Before I go there, we are coming up to Kids Day. Do you know what Kids Day is, Alex?
Not fully, to be honest.
Okay. Kids Day is the last Friday in Ramadan. So otherwise, the last holy day of Ramadan. And it's where worldwide Muslims protest for the Palestinian people and the Alaska Mosque. The Alaska Mosque, the third most holy site of Islam, which happens to be on the Dome of the Rock, where in fucking Jerusalem, in the West Bank. Where we've seen Israeli soldiers now, not just with patches of Greater Israel, but patches saying the third fucking temple. Where Hegseth has told his commanders, who told the troops, this war you're fighting with Iran is to bring about Armageddon and the restoration of the third temple. Julius Caesar, beware the Ides of March, because that's when Kids is about a week or so from now. If, and it's a big fucking if, we get to the end of next week, to next Sunday, without a nuke being used, well, I don't know what the betting would be that Israel might just fucking blow the fuck out of Alaska Mosque and try and blame it on an Iranian missile gone astray. Alex,
Yeah. It's kind of one that I wondered if they would pull when we were back at the start in Gaza and then when they were hitting Lebanon. So they want their third temple. They've bred their red heifers. They want to go that way, and to be able to double that up is something that they can blame Iran for, and maybe even justify the using of a nuke in Iran. It's not far-fetched, unfortunately.
no, it's not far-fetched. From Diana onwards, there have been, well, from JFK, maybe, I don't know. There have been people trying to warn us about this satanic fucking ball worshipping Epstein class, children raping, children baby fucking eating. But we didn't want to know. And even now, when it's proved, when it's no longer a conspiracy fucking theory, and there's no arrests and there's no uprisings, Jesus fucking McGrory Christ. What the fuck are you meant to do?
Apathy. Pure apathy.
Apathy. Apathy. Now, you see, the thing is, these motherfuckers, this Epstein class, they've been planning for this. They've known what's coming for a long time. They planned for it for a long time. When I'm back from holiday, Alex, Glenn, and I might do a special show where we can pull in a few things. But Alex, can you tell people about what you suddenly, when the light that went on in the Economist magazine was Moody? Okay.
Yeah, there was one part when we did the show on the Economist cover that never made any sense to me, and it was the positioning of the figures. And you had on the one side, and I forget who we decided the woman was, but you had Trump and you had Modi. And at the time, Modi was, India was part of BRICS. He kind of always played both sides in a way, in a very Erdoganish manner. But he was a part of BRICS. There was no connection to put him on a side with Trump. And like I said, I forget who we decided the woman was. But it didn't
I think
make...
it was Kaja Kallas.
It's Kaja Kallas, yeah. I couldn't think for a minute whether we said it was her or whether
Or
it was
Maloney, yes.
Maloney.
It might be Maloney, yes, Tricia, well done.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it never made any sense. But now, when we've had over the last week or so, India visiting Israel, visiting Tel Aviv and Netanyahu, and you're thinking, hang on a minute, he's now thrown his lot in on that side. It suddenly makes a sense. He's now the performing monkey for Trump, for Netanyahu. And suddenly it starts making a little bit more sense. And this is the worst thing about the Economist covers, because they do, as you go through the year, the bits that you didn't quite get suddenly start adding up.
Well, you got drones, tanks, a falling fucking stock market.
Yeah.
Money lying all over the place. And pills.
Yeah.
Just in that little bit right there.
Yeah.
Oh, mate.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so yes, we might well do a special, because right now would be a good time for folks to go and look at that Economist magazine cover again, to go and look at I Pet Goat 2 again, maybe the shows that me and the Prof did on it. Because if you watch I Pet Goat 2 now, I think it's going to look a whole lot more familiar to you. You might see things like Venezuela. Oh, and the guy being drowned in oil in Venezuela. You might see the little onion kid with the stock market's plunge going across his fucking eyeballs before the bombs start falling on the Dome of the Rock. And then I could throw in some red. So we'll do that when I come back from holiday. But this Epstein class, Alex, has known that something's coming for a long time. They've been planning for it. So why don't you tell people what, before the war kicked off, you and Glenn were looking at and what you found, because I think I can then tie in a little bow.
Yeah. Well, I was looking at the time, Glenn was going to look at why we hadn't, so taking things on surface level, why we hadn't gone back to the moon for 50 years. And I was looking at why they want to now. So the first thing I was looking at, or first thing I decided to look at, is who's looking at going back to the moon. Is this suddenly a direction? And the first thing that brings me to, because it wasn't that long ago that it came out, is Musk and his comment: Musk changes course on Mars quests and shoots for the moon again. And since the whole Trump inauguration, Musk, when he was on the center stage and all this sort of scenario, he's been talking and going on and on about taking humanity to Mars, about landing on Mars, about building cities on Mars. But suddenly, this is all turned around, this is all U-turned, and suddenly his focus is back onto the moon. And this part of that article was what caught my eye. The mission of SpaceX remains the same. Extend, and you've got to read and hear through the corporate bullshit, but extend consciousness and life as we know it to the stars. SpaceX will also strive to build a Mars city and begin doing so in about 5 to 7 years. But the overriding priority is securing the future of civilization, and the moon is faster. And that line, that last line, the overriding priority of securing the future of civilization, and the moon is faster. And it's impossible not to hear the sands of time in that sentence. It's impossible not to see the hourglass and to see, in his mind at least, in his attitude at least, that he's seeing a sense of time running out, of us not having time to do what he wants to do, to create a colony on Mars, because the moon is faster. So what's going on? Well, Trump's announced a wish list to go to the moon, to see the American flag flying on the moon, because that's the way he talks. And maybe for him, you could argue that it is just about legacy. But why do private companies want to go to the moon? Why is Musk trying to go to the moon? What is a legacy for him? He's not, whatever went on with Doge, he's not anymore a public servant. So why does SpaceX want to go to the moon? Well, this is from their actual website. Why the moon? This is their argument they give. The moon is one of Earth's closest habitable neighbours and provides an opportunity to gain valuable experience for missions to Mars and beyond. So their argument now, and like I said, this is U-turned recently, their argument now is that it's the nearest neighbour, but also that it will provide an opportunity to gain valuable experience for missions to Mars and beyond. And
it's habitable, Alex, all of a sudden.
Yes.
No, they don't need the space suits. Maybe the fucking John Lewis ad was correct, but the real man was a shark on the moon. It's habitable.
Yeah.
On you
Yes.
go, mate.
It is. It suddenly has. That suddenly's been added in, and this is how you see things in many ways changing. It's watching the adjectives that they suddenly add in, and that they suddenly start talking about. So this, as I say, is SpaceX, and this is their website. So they're advertising the company, they're pushing it. But unmatched capability, designed for interplanetary transport. This is their Starship, and they put it next to the old, moon lander, and for a little tiny human down there for comparison. But this is the bits that get me, because it talks about transporting astronauts, supplies, equipment, science payloads needed for a permanent, sustainable presence on the moon. And it also says Starship can carry more people and much larger payloads than the Apollo lunar module used when humans last explored the moon. And I'm not getting into today whether we did or didn't. That's not the point here. Just one Starship's dual airlocks has more than double the interior volume of the entire Apollo lander. They want to take people to the moon, but they want to take them in numbers. They want to take the scientific supplies in volume. Starship cargo flights to the lunar surface for research, development, and exploratory missions start apparently in 2028 at a rate of $100 million per metric ton. Why are they pricing it per metric ton? Why are they pricing it per volume that they are transporting to the moon? And there is a discrepancy here, because NASA, who they are working with, are saying that the first manned flight to the moon will be, or they were saying when I prepared this, they're saying they were saying the first manned flight would be 27, whereas SpaceX have been saying manned flights start and manned landings on the moon start in 2028. Now I think, and I never got around to going back and checking it, because I only remember when I started talking about this, I think NASA have now put that back to 2028 in their paperwork, in their information as well.
Actually, Alex, I saw something saying NASA has cancelled the Artemis mission.
Cancelled it completely. Interesting. Yep. That's interesting. Now, what that means for SpaceX's plans, because they haven't changed theirs that I've noticed. I don't know whether it will become purely a private industry thing, if we get that far, or what that means, I don't entirely know. But this was the plan at the time. This was the NASA's thing. This was the Artemis 3. This is where they planned it to launch from. This is how they planned it to orbit the moon, and how they planned it to actually end up landing. But it's not just NASA. It's not just... And this was their suggested landing sites, and they had a number that they were planning. Now, this always got me, because though I said I'm not going to get into whether we did or didn't, if they've done all this before, why are they suddenly looking for potential sites now? Why do they suddenly have to go through all that again? Did that all get lost when the tapes got wiped? Did that all get misplaced? But this is the potential sites they are, looking at, or were. If they've cancelled it, maybe not anymore, but that they were at the time. But it's not just them, because this is the other competitor. This is Blue Origin, which is Bezos's. And this is what their aims are. Establishing permanent human presence on the moon is a vital step to realizing the Blue Origin vision. And aside from the fact that when I first did this for last week before the war started, I thought Glenn would be on. So apart from the fact that they have their nice new spaceship called the New Glenn, which is their giant reusable rocket, again, that's that term, reusable. And yes, they push it on sustainability, they push it on the green agenda. But why are they planning for multiple journeys? Why do they need to be able to reuse every rocket? Why is there a suggestion of a quick maneuvering, a quick sending of vast quantities of equipment and more than just a few astronauts? But this is the rest of it they've got there. This is their new lander. This is a Blue Moon lander. And again, provide low-cost, recurring access to the moon and eventually to Mars for both cargo and crew. And then this is where we start seeing more, because this is their habitation quarters. And at the moment, it's looking space-based. But this is their habitation quarters. They're looking for their first missions with the eventual plan and the eventual aim to build habitations, to build survival cities, to build bases, to build cities on the moon. So if the question is why do they want to go back to moon now, it's more than a legacy argument. It's more than a new corporate space race. Why they want to go back to the moon now is very quite simply to stay. They're not looking at visits, they're looking at habitation. Just like you picked up that word habitable, they're going to stay.
Okay, well, this is going to be a sleigh ride through hell. So buckle up, buttercups. "47. Bird gets his ass kicked in Antarctica by Nazis who have been there since the outbreak and before the outbreak of World War II. What they found there was Alice, a super fucking computer AI, who gave them some technological fucking leaps. By the time Bird got there, they had aircraft, flying discs that could fly from pole to pole within minutes, as Bird warned. NASA was paperclip scientists. And the only reason that America got to the goddamn moon in the first place in the 60s was because of Nazi fucking ancient tech. That's why none of this shit makes sense. That's why the computer that fucking took Apollo had less computing power than a modern day fucking singing birthday card. That's why they claim to have fucking lost all the videotapes and wiped them over because they were that expensive, you know? We had to use them for something else, for fuck's sake. And the only way for them to get back to the moon is with that same Nazi ancient tech. The Fourth Reich is unveiling itself all over the place. Here's what the Fourth Reich learned. It learned that the planet goes through natural disaster cycles. And the tech that they got was left over from the civilization that was destroyed by one of those cycles. The human population is in free fall. We talked about that. Bird populations are in free fall. Go check some news feeds. You'll find that hundreds of thousands of seabirds have been washed up on the coast all over Europe. The insect population is in free fall. The pollinating insect, the bees, buzzing of the bees and the fucking candy trees, big top candy mountain. The bee population is in free fall. The pelagic fish populations are in free fall. Every fucking little leg on the food cycle is in free fall, down to and including fucking plankton. Our oceans are dying. Our crops are increasingly failing. Our climate is altering in ways, including us fucking about with it, that we cannot even begin to understand. The earth is wobbling like a drunken sailor. Sundials, of which I have one, are off. The moon's not rising, but it ought to rise. Pole shift seems to be just around the corner. Bottom line is, this planet cannot continue to support the 8.3 billion people which are on. It's like me being stuck back on that ship from hell that was called a cruise. 5,000 passengers, 2,000 crew, limited resources. That, if not replenished in a timely fashion, quickly become scarce resources, and the already rage that I felt because of greedy fuckers who, on a ship full of food, was still trying to throw pensioners out of the way to get to fucking eat as much as you like buffet. How are these people going to cope when there is nothing? When the supermarkets are empty? They are going to be your worst fucking enemy. I'm talking Mad Max on fucking steroids, and we're staring it in the face. They, on the other hand, don't intend to go down with the ship. Which is why they have built the great big beautiful ballroom, which really is a great big beautiful fucking underground fucking base. That's why the Epstein class has bought up so much of New Zealand, sorry to say, because it's one of the safest places on the planet. That's why the Epstein class is so invested in Greenland. Got me? That's why the Epstein class is desperate to get off planet toot fucking sweet. And if they have to do a deal with the fucking Fourth Reich or the devil himself to do so, they will. The rest of us, we're just fucked. Alex, I think that was a bullet train whistle stop. But I think I pretty much did what I said I would do and connected all the dots in one go, did I not?
Yeah.
What do you think, mate?
It's all motive. And the one thing they managed to do, even when people started questioning what they did, people never asked the right questions. People never asked.
Hold on. Elaine, they already have us eating each other. Go have a look at what's in your fucking McDonald's. We're in Soylent Green already. But yes, cannibalism will become a bit of a problem. Sorry, Alex, on you go.
Yeah. But we never asked the right questions. We never did in COVID onwards. And we never asked why they're doing any of it. We put it all down as a bunch of psychopaths. Well, there might be, but they still have such a thing as motive. And that's what so few commentators ask the question on. But it does all make sense. They don't want to be here. They will settle with being underground if they have to, but if they can get off planet in time, they will do that. That's why your moon is suddenly habitable. That's why they suddenly have a rush to get back or get there. But we see it. We see it all does tie up because all the little bits of red string are there. You talk about bird populations. Why is Australia suddenly talking about banning cats? Why is Australia suddenly saying that if you have a cat, you need to keep it in? Because they can see, they know the bird population is falling through the floor. It's all there. The evidence is all there for all of it. And the motive is there for whatever they do. What will people that can't cope on a food or you can eat buffet on a cruise ship do? They will take what they need and they will take it from you. Everyone you've told, oh, I'm prepped, I'm ready, I'm prepared, is suddenly a danger to you. Everyone who knows you've got supplies is suddenly a risk. From the start, from 2020 onwards, people have just said, oh, we need to build our own communities. We need to get outside the mainstream. And they usually wanted to do it with 20 poets and one builder, like I've mocked too often, but not one of them ever wanted to consider how they defended that community. Not one of them ever wanted to realize that dictatorships do not make good neighbors. They will take because people don't know anymore how to grow. People don't know anymore how to survive. If you do, then they will take from you. It will be Mad Max on steroids. There's no other way to describe it.
I love the memes which say, at this point, if you don't have one, get yourself a conspiracy theorist friend because you're going to need it to understand what comes next.
Yeah.
Us Gen Xers are getting older. No hiding that. But we are the last generation who grew up within touching distance of a world that knew how to survive. Our grandparents fought the First and Second World Wars. Our parents lived, were born and lived. They, let me know if the sign goes. They understood how to grow things. They understood how to get by. They understood how to make do. Jumble sales and mending things, darning socks. eking out. And yes, there's a lot of millennials that have forgotten all of that. A lot of, Gen Xers that have forgotten that. But some of us still know. So the meme really ought to be, I think, find yourself a mean-ass Gen Xer and protect that motherfucker to fuck, because in the days that are coming, you're going to need them. Yeah. Here we are, people. This is the bottom line. We are at the cusp of World War III. Iran has promised tonight that it is going to increase its attack 100-fold. You see, one of the narratives that they try and push is that Iranian drone attacks are down 80%, Iranian fucking missile attacks are down 90%, we're knocking out all the launchers, they can't do shite. Well, tonight, Iran might just show one of their ministers. Because they're all dead, Alex, because every time fucking someone is, in the government or leads the brilliant US and fucking Israelis kill them, not. But one of their ministers came out and said, just to give you a little heads up, everything we've used up to this point was made between 2010 and 2013. And our production facilities are working round the clock. Unlike the docks where HMS Dragon is trying to get ready to go to protect Cyprus. Oh. You've got to laugh because I'll come back to Mario Narfal. Most days of the week, lives in Dubai. Oh, Dubai is fucking gone, by the way. Dubai is a fucking ghost town. Lives in Dubai, was loving the high life and getting the revenues from fucking his podcasts, Patreons, and buy me a coffees, whatever else the fuck he was into, I don't know. But Trump propagandist, Israeli propagandist, bought and paid. But his tweet, we've never been closer to World War III and nobody's giving a shit. That's terrifying. What, Alex? Yeah. How do you feel?
That is the most, out of all of it, and as bad as it all is, that is the most terrifying part. You cannot go on the comments on X without seeing some exceptionalist American shouting how they're going to, and they all talk like kids in the playground, how they're going to give Iran a bloody nose. And for fuck's sake, you're playing with the lives of every member of humanity. You're playing with the continuation, the survival of humanity itself and the world itself. and you're talking about giving Iran a bloody nose, you're back to the my dad's bigger than your dad sort of mentality. Have we truly dumbed down? And it's not just the populations, it's not just the populace. Have we truly dumbed down the populace and the leaders of the countries in the West? Have we truly dumbed them down to such a level that they have zero concept of what the end of the world could possibly mean? It's terrifying. It's terrifying that, and Medvedev made a comment on it again as well recently, and I forget exactly what he said, but the global majority can see it, but the global West, they're walking around with blinkers on, talking about giving Iran a bloody nose, talking about, Russia are using, well, even right back to the chips from washing machines and all of the nonsense. The propaganda machine is in overdrive, but it doesn't even need to be. They don't even need to hide what they're doing. They can make statements like Baron Trump is too tall to go to war. This is the insanity and the limit of their even effort they need to do to control people's thoughts. Nobody sees anything. Nobody believes anything. Nobody cares. They have got to that point where they've not just stopped you knowing who to believe, but they'd stopped you knowing what to believe. It's insane.
And that's going to get worse.
Yeah.
Censorship is, we'll just see. We might have to go back to doing newsletters and writing fucking snail mail, carrier pigeons, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But we'll keep getting the truth out. So I'm signing off for a week and a bit. There'll be no smoking on Wednesday. Not sure if there'll be a gunman on Sunday. I think Alex and Glenn are going to work that out. I should be back for a smoking week on Wednesday. Hell, that's a long time away, people. At that point, I might be sending you smoke signals. Hopefully, however, if the world's going to hell in a handbag, I'll be sitting on a nice beach with a cocktail in my hand, watching the show go down. Just saying. Alex, do last thoughts for the audience and promote the shows that are coming up.
Don't know what last thoughts I have, really. Just all you can do is keep your eyes peeled, keep your finger on the pulse. At this stage, there's very little that we can do to stop them. We can scream, and we probably should still scream our heads off for peace, but they won't stop. They won't listen because they have their reasons. They have their motives. So live your lives. Do what you can do. And live each day. Just literally live each day, because you don't know what is guaranteed. And we will be back tonight, and Glenn will be on tonight at 8 p.m. with Last Jacobites International. Don't know what we're going to talk about yet, but there's certainly plenty to cover. So we will see you soon.
Ben asked, what's smoke signal for a Pagdale?
Classic.
Oh, I love it. Really? Aye. It is what it is, people. We are where we are. My only advice is to echo Alex. Love those that you love. Hold them close. Live life as if there is no tomorrow, because, quite frankly, there might not be. So, with that, I'm sure there was something I was going to tell you. Hey ho, I guess it'll just have to wait. Please try and not be overwhelmed. Information is flowing thick and fast, and most of it's crap. If it's a red alert, dire need situation, watch my feed. Just try and be good to each other. Yes, we understand what's coming, and it's not going to be nice. But hey ho, if you're a Gen Xer, you lived through the 70s, you lived through the 80s and Thatcherism, you've lived through the fucking banking crisis 2008 and austerity, you've lived through it. You'll get through this too, if you stay strong. Now, that's a hell of a lot nicer than I have been in fucking many a year. Must be because I'm in a good mood because I'm going on holiday. So the rest of you now, fuckity off. Listen to the closing song if you've half a brain, because it's quite good. But apart from that, fuckity, fuckity, fuckity off. And you want a smoke signal? There you go.
The Eastern world is exploding, violence flaring, and the bullets are loading. They're rolling up to kill, just not foreboding. You don't believe in war, but what's that gun you're toting? And even the Jordan River's got bodies floating. But you tell me over and over and over again, my friend, that you don't believe we're on the eve of destruction. No, you don't believe we're on the eve of destruction. Don't you understand what I'm trying to say? Can't you feel the fear that I'm feeling today? If that button is pushed, there'll be no running away. There'll no one to save in a world in a grave. So take a look around you, girl, it's bound to scare you, boy. Tell me over and over and over again, my friend, you don't believe we're on the eve of destruction. No, you don't believe we're on the eve of destruction. My blood is so mad, feels like it's coagulating. I'm sitting here just contemplating. You can't twist the truth, it knows no regulation. A handful of senators don't pass legislation. Marches alone can bring integration and human respect. This integration, this whole crazy world is just way too frustrating. But you tell me over and over and over again, my friend, you don't believe we're on the eve of destruction. No, you don't believe we're on the eve of destruction. Think of all the hate there is in Red China. Take a look around to Selma, Alabama. You may leave here for 4 days in space, but when you return, it's the same old place. The pounding of the drums, the pride and disgrace. You can bury your dead, but don't leave a trace. Hate your next door neighbor, but don't forget the sacred to tell me over and over and over again, my friend. You don't believe we're on the eve of destruction. You don't believe